Blimey. Ooh, this is one hell of a jam jar you got here.
Warning. The House of Mystery contains demons, angels, elementals, magicians, wizards, apparitions, adult language, and discussions. If you're easily offended, do not enter the House of Mystery.
All right, then. On with the show.
All right, hello, welcome everyone to the House of Mystery, the John Constantine and Friends podcast. I am your guide into the House of Horrors, where we dine and have sex with spirits. What happens in the House of Mystery stays in the House of Mystery.
Absolutely.
And hello, my fellow, not fellow, because that would mean I'm also that, but hello, my bisexual butler.
Hello, sir. Would you like me to prepare your room with your Zatanna love doll?
See, this is why you're my butler. You're better than Alfred.
Yeah, right.
I mean, Alfred ain't doing that for Bruce Wayne.
No.
Yeah, I have the wrong notes up right now, Dave, because I'm not prepared, and you just completely threw me into a loop here. Because,
well, dude, anything dealing with Zatanna,
that's
I think
exactly
just basically, discombobulates the male psyche.
Yeah,
because I can make the argument that Zatanna is probably one of the hottest or the hottest character in DC.
She's not real, Dave. She's a comic book
no
character.
She's real in my imagination.
Now, if we were to get a live action version, and it's true to comic book form in terms of adaptation, then I'll be like, yes, please.
But see, the sad part is, Mike, in today's world, they probably make Zatanna like this, 11-year-old child.
What?
And, she has to grow up into the wizard, and we'll never see the Zatanna from the comics.
You just took me down to zero.
Exactly. But that's how it is. That's how this messed up world works.
Yeah. All right. So today you and I are going to be talking about Tom Taylor's DCeased sequel, DCeased Dead Planet number 3. Yeah, we are continuing our discussion. We're in some interesting territory here, Dave.
We are.
And I enjoy the level of escapism that Taylor offers readers in story arcs like this. My personal opinion is that Taylor is at his best when he does these fun forays into stories that don't necessarily have to adhere to the typical DCU continuity.
Yeah, it's one of his strengths. It's honestly one of his strengths as a writer, is the ability, when you give him the freedom, the creative freedom to do whatever he wants with characters, he 90% of the time knocks it out of the park.
Yeah, for sure. And I will say straight away, issue number 3 of DCeased Dead Planet continues the fun.
Yeah.
Now, for all the new listeners out there, this is the House of Mystery, a John Constantine and Friends podcast. So we will specifically focus on the story elements that pertain to them.
Yes.
And fortunately for us, issue 3 is Constantine and Friends heavy. There is so much JC goodness, and I couldn't stop grinning while I was reading.
Well, the weirdest thing about Tom Taylor is he knows how to give John Constantine his voice.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's in a separate reality or if it's another version of Constantine, Tom Taylor seems to get the spirit of who Constantine is down to his core. So
far in these DCeased titles, the one-shot, A Good Day to Die, I believe is what the one-shot was.
Yeah.
That came out last year. Top notch. I enjoyed the shit out of that. And then so far, so good into this DCeased run. I was a little hesitant moving in just because I wasn't quite sure if Tom Taylor can handle John Constantine, essentially being a lead, if he can really do the character just. I was not a big fan of Injustice, and so I didn't read through much of it. However, you have told me that he did pretty well.
Oh yeah,
with Constantine.
And Constantine in second season is just phenomenal, and especially when you get to the core story of Constantine's in second season. Taylor really took some liberties with the character, but he didn't. The liberties he took just kind of gave more depth to who we know John is. And the reasons why he would do it, we would all say, yeah, this is exactly what Constantine would do if he was thrust into a world like this. And I think that's like an ongoing thing now with DC. I mean, especially if you look at the latest run of Hellblazer, what's the story that basically we're constantly told? There's different versions of Constantine. Which one's the best?
Oh, come on. It's kind of hard, right?
Exactly.
I mean, if we had to pick right now this second, you had to pressure me into it, and you put a knife to my gut, I'd say Vertigo.
Yeah.
I mean,
everyone
is that even in question?
But like everyone would basically say, okay, the Vertigo version of Constantine, but then you look at, say, the Sandman Universe version of him.
Well, isn't that kind of... Oh, you're talking about the new current run?
Yeah, the new current run.
But isn't that essentially them redoing Vertigo?
Yes and no.
Because they closed the title out, or the publishing...
That they did. They did.
Imprint, I should say.
But remember what the whole start of that series was like, while yes, this is the Vertigo version of Constantine, again, it might not be, because there's just that one little change to his character.
We'll see, right? We'll see.
Exactly.
Yeah, we're not that far along.
We're not that far along in that title.
Yeah. So, yeah, this issue, bringing it back to DCeased Dead Planet, this issue feels like a natural progression for Constantine. You see this guy take charge, taking the lead. He is, after all, the leader of the so-called Shadow Pact, and he's even presiding over elements pertaining to the Justice League themselves. And typically, I am not, and people know this very well, it's documented on this show, I'm not the biggest fan of seeing John Constantine play nice with the capes. It's a bit out of character for him to do so.
Is it, though? Because, like, given the situation, I think the core concept of Constantine, though, is he's the type of person that will do whatever it takes.
Well, and that's, you're right. And that's my point, is that typically he avoids these types of scenarios, these types of people. He doesn't like to be around them. He doesn't want to be associated with them. However, due to the circumstances, the world being completely fucked, well, this is when John Constantine thrives.
Yes.
In the muck and the mire. So having John take the lead and putting together a plan in this issue made so much sense. I mean, the world is a living hell. This is literally his domain.
Oh, yeah. And it's one of those things, like, in the last, I would say the last 5 years of DC writing, not just Tom Taylor, but all the writers that have written for Constantine, there's this element that I've noticed the last 5 years that they've thrown to add depth to Constantine as a character for all of DC, where he's the guy that basically gets called when shit's hit the fan.
Right.
Like, no one else could answer the call, and he's the last one. And he's the only one capable of actually dealing with the situation. Right. I mean, look at the titles that basically he's ever been thrust in. Many times in Justice League Dark, he's the last guy that they called for help. Why? Because no one else can fix it. Constantine can. Because why? Constantine's willing to take people by the face and basically just tell them this is how it goes and give them their reality check and basically kick them in the nads.
Yeah.
Or, like, he's the type of person that's willing to look at Superman, call him an idiot, and try to kick him in the bullocks.
Yeah.
And tell Batman he's the stupidest detective in the world.
Right. Well, I mean, you're absolutely right. And that's why it does make sense for him to take center stage in a
Yeah.
storyline like this. But even all those elements you were going through, we need to probably plan a show around that idea. The idea that John Constantine has always been the go-to for many years whenever you're dealing with the world of magic. I mean, the entire idea of the New 52 was to bring in John Constantine into the mainstream world and use him to introduce various elements of magic, restructure the concepts and the ideas for a more mainstream approach, correct?
Yes.
Well, since then, I feel like the world of magic has been muddied a bit to where a lot of it's bleeding over into regular titles, especially with the new run of Justice League Dark, which I do
absolutely.
enjoy. I feel like the story is fantastic, but at the same time, you're now having Wonder Woman take the lead. You have opened the possibilities of the world of magic to her. So in future stories, are we really going to need to call John Constantine when you have a member of the Trinity? So I feel like they're also now taking away from reasons why you would call Constantine and bring him on board. But again, we're still very early on within the whole Justice League Dark Circle or storyline, so we'll put a pin in that. I don't want to get too off track here, Dave.
Yeah.
So with DCeased, the elements that were set up, that were put in play, from his interaction with the Supes to getting involved and saving people, saving the world, it made sense on multiple levels. And I had such a big grin when Constantine borrowed Wonder Woman's lasso.
Oh, dude, that was awesome.
And then Superman boy, asked John, what do you need me to do? And Constantine just said, nothing yet. You'll probably need to save everything in the next bit. The fact that he is the one they're asking, you have Superman saying, what do you need me to do? I mean, this is awesome to see Constantine be put into this type of situation where he is the veteran. It does make sense because he is quite literally the veteran. The rest of them are kids, essentially.
Yeah. And that's what I really dug about the dynamic that Tom Taylor used in DCeased, was like he took the characters that we all knew were considered like the young next generation heroes, and he basically finally bumped them up to say, okay, you're not the next generation anymore. You guys are front and center. You are center stage.
Yeah.
It's no longer Superboy. You are Superman.
Right.
It's no longer you are Robin. You are freaking Batman, and you better like it. And like taking characters like a Constantine who, let's be honest, Constantine is in that echelon of like Dick Grayson's Nightwing. You know, all those characters are very popular, but they've always been treated as the sidekick to the Trinity, to Wonder Woman,
Oh, right.
Batman, Superman.
For sure, yeah.
No one is above them. In DCeased, the thing that really intrigued me was that changed. And
the dynamic is completely different.
the dynamic, especially like I'm glad you really pointed out that one scene, because it's one of the strongest scenes that for Constantine, all the scenes that are subtle in context are the most powerful to me.
Mm-hmm.
Him talking to at that point John, who's Superman, and telling him and not calling him Superboy. He says, you're Superman.
Yep. Well, because
So-
this is where Constantine shows that he has a bit of, he's sensitive.
Yeah.
And he's aware of the feelings and perhaps even feelings of doubt in their own abilities, because they are in the shadows of their fathers. They're also thrown into a situation that maybe they might feel like they're not ready for. And the fact that you have Constantine saying, you're Superman,
Yeah.
we're going to need you to save everyone in the next bit here. I mean, that's such a great way and a very subtle way to show John's growth, John Constantine's growth and understanding as a leader.
Yeah,
Or his
because-
empathy, I should say.
And it's not him. And if you look at the subtle way he talks, not to just Superman, but the other three, We're talking the brand new trilogy in the DCeased universe, which is Batman, Wonder Woman, Superman.
Trinity, you mean? You said trilogy.
Yeah, the Trinity, which is Damian. I forgot what the new Wonder Woman's real name was.
How dare you?
I forgot. Sorry. But like,
people are going to send us hate mail.
He doesn't refer to them as Damian or John. He refers to them as their actual titles. He's Batman. She's Wonder Woman. When he asks for the lasso, what does he say? Wonder Woman, I need to borrow your lasso.
Yeah. And also, Dave, I don't know if you have picked up on this, and I could be wrong, but he's not even calling them nicknames. He usually gives the Supes nicknames in a way to kind of, talk shit to them. Is he even doing that to them?
No.
Yeah.
He doesn't, and that's the thing. Even with his own team, if you notice, he still has that friendly, sarcastic banner with Bobo, with Zatanna, with Swamp Thing. Right. Even with
the John Constantine swagger and his vernacular, it's all there.
It's all there. But when it comes down to crunch time and he's actually in a team environment where he has to take the lead on this, suddenly he's not joking anymore, and he basically refers to people in their proper codes.
Yeah, and some people may say that, that's because Tom Taylor doesn't quite understand John Constantine, but I feel like it's the opposite. I feel like he understands the situation. Obviously, this is Tom Taylor's story. I feel like it's about context. And in a situation like this, where you're dealing with a younger group of kids, essentially, and you're the older John Constantine, he would have a level of respect and he would understand how they feel. And that's why I feel like everything he's done with Constantine in this particular issue, I feel like it's on point.
Oh, absolutely.
And it works really well. Because, again, this is the type of scenario where John thrives.
Yes.
I really dig these moments of heroism, I should say, fueled by a sense of responsibility and guilt, which makes sense when we find out in the opening pages that 2 members of the Shadow Pact
died.
Actually, yes, died, had been killed, and it was Blue Demon and Ragman. But not Zatanna, David.
I have issues with that, Mike.
Wait, you wanted her to die, David?
Not really, but...
Listen, David, Plastic Man better get his dirty mitts off DCeased gal pal.
I'll save it for, like, my nitpicks. But, like, I'm sorry. We saw Plastic Man go into her mouth, come out of her eyes.
Did we, though? Did we see him come out of her eyes?
We saw it go out of her eyes.
Listen, there's plenty of ways. Okay, I'm going to call shenanigans on the eyes, unless you can prove me wrong right this minute. Because I can think of at least a half a dozen ways you can enter a woman and she'll live.
Oh, I'm sure. There's many ways, Mike, we can do.
I apologize for that comment. That was actually the House of Mystery version of Mike. And remember, what happens in the House of Mystery, as well as what is said, stays within the House of Mystery. No, go ahead, Dave. We're there, so tell me what your issue was, besides the fact that she isn't dead.
My issue with it was the whole scene just seemed to be kind of like jazz hand to me, because like you go from the last issue where you see Constantine and Bobo falling into the maw of Plastic Man after we watch Plastic Man impale everybody, like not only Blue Demon, not only Ragman, but also Zatanna.
Isn't everybody, okay?
But then we cut right to Constantine and Zatanna waking up and saying what happened. And then Constantine waves it off by saying, well, it's not Constantine, I think it's Tom Taylor, waving it off and just saying, oh, Blue Demon saved us.
Because we didn't see it.
Okay,
I'm now on. I opened up issue 2.
Yes.
And I'm looking at the second to last page.
Yes.
And we see Zatanna, Swamp Thing, Ragman, Constantine, Blue Demon and Bobo, all flying, trying to avoid getting caught in Plastic Man's disgusting snare.
Yes.
Swamp Thing is stabbed.
Ragman is stabbed.
And then in silhouette, we see what looks like Zatanna being stabbed in silhouette.
In the mouth and in the eyes.
But then you see Blue Devil or Blue Demon get in the way, and he cuts Plastic Man's tentacles, and it goes into him instead.
But Mike, if I'm gonna get stabbed in the face,
Dude, Zatanna has magic, okay?
see, no, Mike, no,
David, she has magic and she has hot powers.
no, Mike,
David,
that shouldn't work.
Do you not know what hot powers are?
Hot powers can only take you so far.
Those titties are OP.
But overall, it's not the fact that Zatanna lived that bothers me. It's just the fact that an opening sequence of it all, it just seems thrown really fast at us that Jazz Hands, Blue Demon saved us all.
Okay, let me say this, Dave. And if you feel like I'm overly justifying, then I'll stop. Now, DCeased as a title is an exploitation piece.
Yes.
Absolutely is an exploitation, pulpy piece. And in that vein, exploitation films are known for being over sensationalized in their marketing, the way they end things that lead into the next within a trilogy or a sequel. They want to leave you at the edge of your seat, and many times that ending isn't always sincere, and neither is the marketing or promotion. That's why we have all these variants that a lot of them don't even apply to the story.
Yes.
Because that's what the exploitation films did in the 60s and 70s. Many times things in the posters as well as the trailers didn't even match the movie in any way because it was simply a way to market it.
Yes.
So the Zatanna and the silhouette of things going through her face, I kind of shrug it off as a way to fuck with the audience. Is it kind of fucked if you expected someone to die? Yes. Is it cheap? Yes. Is it gimmicky? Yes.
Yes.
Is it sleazy as fuck? Yes. But is that not what exploitation is? The exploitation genre? So that's why I didn't really get upset with this. Now, if this was a very serious title, let's say this was the Hellblazer title, and they try to pull a stunt like that, then I would be right with you right now.
Oh no! And here's the thing. That's why I say is the title itself. The issue isn't bad, but for me, it's the little details that bug me about the issue.
I can't believe I'm justifying for Tom Taylor right now. What world is this?
What world is this? But like, I would agree with you 100% too. It's a very exploitation type of style to do something like that. But when I took it into context with other points where I'm like left going, how did that work? How does that work? What's going on? And like, for example, so I have that first issue, and then the second issue that comes up, suddenly we get explained that Cyborg has a body. They give him a new body. Mm-hmm. Me and you made jokes about it. It'd be so awesome if it was just a head, and they had to carry the head around.
Yeah, I'm going to call shenanigans in that one. Come on, Tom Taylor.
Like, where did they keep his body? All they said was, "How do you like your new body? Where did you get it?"
Yeah, they did. They did jump, didn't they? I agree. I agree with that. That was actually an element that I had as well.
And then, while I love the ending with him and our surprise guest, I don't know if we want to give it away.
But you feel like the pacing is kind of fucked up.
The pacing
they should have slowed things down a bit.
Yeah,
explain things.
Explain things a little bit more, because
don't just cheat the reader and say, hey, you remember last issue? Well, now at the end of this issue, we have fixed a problem and you were not privy to it.
And we weren't privy to it.
David,
exactly.
I will give you that. That is actually, that's bad.
Yeah.
I agree.
And like, especially when you get to the third problem that I had, which I had to actually go back and reread another series to see our surprise hero that shows up in the end and finding out that he survived.
Yeah.
And I was like,
I can't argue that either.
Wait a minute.
I was so mystified that I wasn't quite sure which character it was at first. I'm like, wait.
yeah. And
because this character died in the one shot,
in
right?
the one shot. And also, don't forget, we see him in the very beginning. We see his ghost in the bar with Constantine. Now, you could say that
we saw his ghost.
Remember when Constantine's
that was a
talking?
memory.
That was a memory.
Yeah.
You could say that was that's the memory of the character.
Right.
But it's very easy for the reader to all of a sudden say, well, wait a minute, we just saw him in the very beginning and you made illusions that he's dead.
Well, they were reminding us, knowing that he would come back. But I don't think they were trying to say he was a ghost in that bar. It was the romanticized way of saying, I'm haunted by my demons and my ghosts.
Yes.
It's the metaphorical way, in the metaphorical sense, I should say. It's not truly, there weren't really ghosts hanging out with him at the bar.
Yeah. But again, it's kind of like dropping that bomb on us and we only know that he survived, but it's off panel.
I agree, Dave. But this is the House of Mystery. And we're talking about John Constantine.
Yeah, John Constantine.
But I do agree. I had issues with that as well. It's inauthentic.
It is.
And it's a bit insulting to the reader. Mm-hmm. The cyborg thing, I agree 100%. And with Mr. Miracle, I also agree. I'm just like, what the? That's why I sent you a message in our Discord. I said, is that Mr. Miracle?
And yeah, it's supposed to be Mr. Miracle.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong. I mean, overall in the issue, they introduced fantastic concepts. But it's the little details that started chipping at me.
The narrative itself is a little flawed, but when it comes to the character study of John Constantine and what they did with him,
fantastic.
I mean, I feel like it worked for me in terms of the John Constantine element, and honestly, that's the only reason why I'm reading this comic is because of John Constantine and of course his associates, Swamp Thing and Zatanna. And outside of the great personal arc for John, the main plot really moved forward with some reveals that had no breadcrumbs, as you had mentioned.
Zero breadcrumbs.
As we've said before, you can't just have a John Constantine. You can't just throw John Constantine in a story and hope it makes sense unless it involves in some way the supernatural. You have to justify why he's involved. It's one of the reasons why I didn't care about the Justice League Dark movie, the recent one, the cartoon that just came out, 6 months ago?
6 months ago.
Because it wasn't really a Justice League Dark movie. In fact, it wasn't. I want to take the really out of it. It wasn't a Justice League Dark movie. It was just simply a Justice League Dark movie.
Yeah.
But with the introduction of Etrigan and him telling Constantine that hell isn't happy because the souls are locked inside the anti-living. So Trigon has this plan to wipe it all away.
Yes.
So now that hell is involved in this fun little scenario Taylor's devised, now for me, John Constantine's reason for being here is justified.
It's justified.
Forward.
Exactly. And I like the inclusion of that extra threat, right? That extra threat that gives our character motivation to be there to continue the fight. And I think that that's what was needed for Constantine. Because at this point, what are the major threats that basically were in the DCeased world? You have Superman siphoning off the sun for God knows what reason. What's John going to do with that? Absolutely nothing.
Right.
He can't do anything with that. Then you have the anti-life equation that, there's a cure. Well, if it's not magical, that's kind of out of Constantine's realm.
Yeah, and listen, John Constantine lives in this world where not every day requires the actions of the supernatural, but we're dealing with a story. And John Constantine can't be brought down to the mundane. We have a whole slew of characters, and you need to use your tools appropriately within the DC world and within DC stories.
So bringing in the Trigon element really makes sense.
And the aspect of hell.
Aspect
and
of
the
hell.
souls being trapped in the anti-living.
And I love that.
That
I
was
love
really
that.
cool, yeah.
Because not only does that actually tie into Constantine's realm now, but now you've given us a reason why the cure makes sense now. Why Superboy keeps rallying around the fact that we
Because
can
their
save
soul
all
is
of
still
them.
there.
Their souls are still there.
Yeah.
And the only issue I have with that is, okay, they do realize that basically they could save everyone that's infected. But what about the people that they all killed and all got?
They're gonna have to live with that.
Yeah, that's what I think is like.
I killed my mother.
That's why I was like going.
Yeah, but also their bodies are all torn up. Like, what is a cure gonna?
Is a cure gonna reverse that?
Yeah.
And like, I'm like going. Actually, I think that's also why Constantine's the leader of this right now.
Yeah.
Because Constantine's the only person that could possibly look at that scenario and say, we're going to do what we can, but we're going to win the day at any cost.
Yeah.
And and he's the only character that could do that. If you think about it in DC, no other character can do that. Not even Batman. Batman has that rule that no one can die. No one dies on his watch. Constantine's like, yeah, we're going to take losses. I'm going to make the sacrifice. And it goes back to his origin with Newcastle, where he knows that the soul of that one girl is damned for eternity. There's nothing he can do. She's damned.
Yeah.
There's no pulling her back. But he still is going to win the day and beat that demon. But it's at a cost.
Yeah.
He's the only hero that actually, when you think about it in DC, that type of storytelling works.
Yeah. Well, there are others, but he's definitely the more popular.
He's the more popular, dude. Because
when it comes to that element, yeah.
I thought about this, why Constantine is the main focus for DCeased lately. And it makes sense that he's the perfect leader for this scenario, because he's the only one in the DC universe that has that mentality that I'm willing to sacrifice people to win the day.
And also, from a marketing standpoint, now we understand why Tom Taylor is using John Constantine as a lead in the story, because he's writing Hellblazer Rise and Fall.
Yes.
Ta-da!
Ta-da!
Hey, guys, if you really like John in my DCeased, that's a huge bona fide success. Check out Hellblazer Rise and Fall.
You like the fact that basically you get to the last page and there's an advertisement for it.
I know. Now, as I was saying, the entire issue is filled with some really great Constantine moments. They are not forced. His quips and sarcasm are very subtle. When he first starts talking to Etrigan, it's fucking gold. When Etrigan immediately starts doing his thing, rhyming.
Yes.
He says, before you start, could we please skip the fucking rhyming? I just lost 2 friends, and I'm not in the mood for amateur poetry hour. And then Etrigan says, you are very mean, John Constantine. It's so stupid. And then the next panel, Constantine just says, please don't.
And then he says, hell isn't happy.
Yeah, they're not really known for that. It's the dialogue exchange is, I feel like it's really good. Every time John talks in this issue, it's on point. It's everything you would expect him to say. There's not the over-the-top bloke or cunt or all the things that have become a bit of cliches that you would expect Constantine to say, the catchphrases. Instead, this is just more sincere to his actual personality. And I like that. I feel like with a lot of people who take on the John Constantine character, there are things they immediately want him to do. Let's make sure we draw attention to him lighting a cigarette, and he's going to say bloke and bollocks and all those other cool catchphrases. So let's take a very quick break, Dave, and then when we get back, we're going to jump into the rest of our discussion. Hey, Hellblazer fans, be sure to check out John Constantine, Hellblazer Volume 1, Marks of Woe, on sale now. One of DC's most iconic characters, John Constantine, Hellblazer, is back the way you remember him, and now a part of the Sandman universe in this brand new series. It collects It collects the Sandman Universe Presents Hellblazer #1 and John Constantine Hellblazer 1 through 5. Be sure to check out the podcast description of this episode for the details. It helps us stay on the air when you click through our affiliate links and purchase through us. Thank you.
I just want a long, happy, healthy life for him. When Anthony was a day old, he was diagnosed with transposition of the greater arteries. He was born with this pre-existing condition, and to know that he's going to have to deal with this for the rest of his life. If I could take it from him, I would. If President Trump continues his assault on the ACA, eliminating the protections for those with pre-existing conditions, what's this going to look like for families like ours? It completely baffles me that you would look to attack any part of healthcare. Donald Trump is looking to roll back those protections for pre-existing conditions in the middle of a pandemic. It's mind-blowing. Joe Biden has a genuine interest.
All right, welcome back, everyone, to the House of Mystery, the John Constantine and Friends podcast. I am Michael Flores, the host, and you're listening to us via Rainman Digital, the Rainman Digital Network. Head over to rainmandigitalmedia.com for all of your podcasting needs. We do a wide variety of discussions, not just Data and I. We have an entire stable of hosts. I'm the John Constantine of the group, of course. I was wearing my headphones backwards and I couldn't figure out what the hell was going on. My sound was all screwed up. So yes, rainmandigitalmedia.com. Also, if you want to help us stay on the air, go to our Patreon page, patreon.com/rainmandigital and pledge. I mean, anywhere between $1 to $10 a month will help us stay on the air. We do offer content at different tier levels. The $3 tier is our behind-the-scenes tier, where you see what's going on in the studio sometimes with various videos. Also, pre-shows, bonus discussions that we do. We put out a lot of content dealing with different areas of geekdom. So head over to patreon.com/rainmandigital and pledge. All right, Dave. Oh, man, I had too much Red Bull. I'm just bloated.
See, I can't drink that anymore.
I feel like I'm on my period. I'm just bloated and uncomfortable. All right, so Swamp Thing is losing his shit over the rich using and abusing the green.
Not just the green. I mean, if you actually see...
Floronic Man.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was... I thought that concept was fantastic.
I knew you would, because I think sometimes you're more of a fan of Swamp Thing, right, than John Constantine at points.
At points. But I mean, I like the concept that Tom Taylor was willing to go that extra distance to just not make it. They're abusing the green. No, they took an element of the green that everyone that knows the DC universe
You're manipulating it.
You're manipulating
You're
it.
perverting it.
And instead of taking the Swamp Thing, they took Floronic Man, which
Yeah.
is the second best thing in the DC universe. And when Tom Taylor does that, it makes me stand up and applaud because he understands how the DC universe works. And he uses it and manipulates it to what his story has to dictate.
Well, and also it gives motivation to our character. Yet again, giving a reason why a certain character is being included, rather than just simply saying, "Hey guys, here's this character, here's this character." Well, why are they here? No reason.
No reason.
Well, here we have yet again a reason why Swamp Thing's a part of the story. I like what they did with him, giving him purpose and proper motivation. As you mentioned, including Floronic Man and the green was definitely a nice touch and needed, especially when you contrast the anti-life equation and the green. It makes for an interesting metaphor.
Yeah, it really does. And like on top of that, because he's doing that, it affects his relationship with Constantine, and it brings more depth and more layers to the relationship that we all know that is John Constantine and Swamp Thing.
Yeah.
I really like how right now in DCeased, Constantine is more when he's dealing with Swamp Thing, it's kind of like he usually is a person who backs off. He'll make his quips and get underneath Swamp Thing's skin, but you get the sense that the relationship has slightly, I guess you could say, matured because
Swamp Thing doesn't have skin, David. He has leaves.
But
I call foul ball.
Constantine's willing to look at Swamp Thing and say, "Hey, I get it. You're angry.
Yeah.
But we'll come back. We'll come back and we'll deal with it another time." And then he immediately just shuts down Swamp Thing and basically they teleport away.
Yeah, but Swamp Thing wasn't having it, man. He popped
Oh, yeah.
Maxwell Lord's head off.
That was awesome.
Dude, I'm not lying. See, these are the moments that I like Tom Taylor because he does shocking things. I was not expecting that, and no joke, Dave, I literally said out loud, "Oh shit." Like, dude's head just got popped right off.
And it wasn't a hero. It wasn't like a accident that it happened. No. Swamp Thing outright popped his head off.
We already know when you fuck with the green, Constantine or Swamp Thing doesn't hold back.
Doesn't hold back.
I mean, he was getting so angry, he blossomed new flowers on his shoulders. Did you notice that?
Yes. Yeah. And then on top of that,
I like stuff like that. That's why this issue does give me it gives me conflicted feelings because there are narrative issues, but then when it comes to the individual characters, I'm like, that is really good.
When it comes to the moments,
the story itself, the plot, it feels like we miss things and suddenly they're resolved and we're left wondering, well, when did this happen? Why were we not privy to this? But then you have these great moments with Swamp Thing and Constantine where you kind of shrug and say, well, at least he's getting these character moments right.
Yeah. And that's why I'm coming into this issue a little, a
little, Dave. You didn't even want to cover it the other day. You're like,
because
you're not going to like it, Mike, because I didn't read it yet.
I was really worried that basically the little details that bothered me would bother you.
Yeah.
Because
and if we were
narrative is very important to us.
It is, but I think because so typically, yes, if we were reading this to review it as a comic book, if this is like what we do with John Constantine Hellblazer and Cy Spurrier made these types of mistakes, I would call it out and it would be graded according.
Yes.
But the reason why I'm reading this is not necessarily for the story because I'm not a big Tom Taylor fan. I'm reading this essentially for John Constantine. So I am reading it through the lens of what are you going to do with this character? And the same thing applies to Swamp Thing and Zatanna. So perhaps if I had read this through the lens of simply just a critic looking to read a comic book, I would probably come on this mic right now and be saying some shit like I did with Rise and Fall.
Yeah. Because like the weirdest part for me is like, you alluded to it earlier.
Yeah.
Tom Taylor in this issue hits all of the Constantine moments right.
Yeah.
Like he gets that character. Constantine's the main focus, and Taylor zeroed in on it, and he smacked it out of the park.
Mm-hmm.
But because he did that, a lot of the other elements just seem very lackluster, like it's brushed out.
Yeah, dude, and probably, I mean, what is this, a 7-part series? I mean, absolutely, that could be the case. He's not plotting this out very well.
Very well.
So it may be a little hanky. Like, it's instead of being a straight line, it feels like possibly we're meandering. Then when he gets to a point, he realizes, oh, shit, I didn't tackle this. We don't really need to see it. We get that things are moving on in the background as well. And yes, with stories, you don't need to tackle everything. But the cyborg element you brought up, I mean, that was kind of a big part.
That was a big part.
I mean, because the cure is inside of him, is what he's been saying. And then suddenly, I mean, Harley Quinn even calls it into question. Well, is the cure inside your body? Because it's not inside your head, because you said you didn't have it.
You didn't have it. Exactly. And like, or even like the issues with the Superman, or I'll call him Superman at this point.
Yeah, go ahead.
John's the scene where John is healing thanks to Miss Marvel. It happens so quick that I'm like going, wait a minute, how did Miss Marvel cure John? Because John was...
She's a hero, David. She's a hero.
But, dude, he got stabbed through the chest.
Yeah, you're looking for way too much substance and explanations. I'm sorry, Dave.
But,
this is Tom Taylor, dude.
But look.
You should know better, Dave.
As I said, the elements that don't tie to Constantine just seem...
I'm not going to disagree. Now, the Zatanna stuff, I'm on board as well. I know you didn't like it, but anytime we can see how effortlessly she can kill Plastic Man.
Oh, dude. That for me, even though she came back in question, that moment where she pushes him back into the Hellfire, freaking awesome.
Well, we don't get a lot of moments like that. You know, Zatanna is a popular character, and she has been around for a very long time, but she's also overshadowed by the big three. And not just the big three. She's probably overshadowed by all the major characters in the Justice League, and she always gets kind of pushed to the wayside. And we don't get those grand moments where we get to see just how powerful she is. I mean, the fact that she gets up, floats above Hellfire, and takes on Plastic Man, that is fucking legit.
Yeah, and pushes him back with Hex Magic, which, I mean, to your point, the thing about Zatanna that I've always felt is she's a super OP character,
and you have to be careful.
Yeah, to the point that I can make the argument that she is more powerful than Superman and Wonder Woman. She's stronger than any of the Trinity.
I don't know, man. Like, I would say maybe a couple years ago, yeah, but now that Wonder Woman's getting involved in the world of magic, it's anyone's guess at this point now.
Solely because of what Zatanna's powers are. It's hex magic. Anything she says, it's similar to like on the other show, the one other show we talk about magic is Doom Patrol, right? With I forgot his name.
What were you talking about?
The sorcerer in Doom Patrol that me and you love, because
played by Mark Sheppard.
Played by Mark Sheppard, yeah. That character has the same magic, like the same magic powers that Zatanna's based on, which is chaos magic. Hers is she has to speak it backwards and it happens. Meaning her magic is she can speak anything.
You're talking about Kipling.
Yeah. All Zatanna has to do is speak a phrase backwards and it happens. Hence why when she faces off against Plastic Man, all she says is into the Hellfire backwards.
Yeah.
And then bam, it happens.
I like it, man.
That is OP, dude.
Oh, it's very OP. And that's why they always find ways to kind of clip her wings, even in the current Justice League Dark run, when they're trying to allow Wonder Woman to take center stage to explain and flesh out her magical origins. They essentially make it impossible for Zatanna to call on magic because it will essentially beckon the villains of the story. Like, they will find them if she uses her power.
Yeah.
Which it makes sense if you're a creative writer with a little bit of smarts. You can say, okay, well, I want to keep Zatanna, front and center in the story, and I want to use her, but she potentially has the ability to just kind of make this story pointless if she has all this power. Yeah. So you do got to be careful when you're dealing with characters like this. But I feel like because we're dealing with a hyper villains, these larger than life zombies of sorts, and we are not quite sure what a plastic man zombie can actually do.
Yeah.
This is a good scenario where you can show off Zatanna's abilities.
Well, especially since you bring in villains, not just like Plastic Man, but Amazo, who Amazo can
He's
actually...
so Amazo.
Amazo in
That's
DC mythos can take out the entire Justice League by himself.
Yeah.
Zatanna in a OP moment uses her hex power to tell him stop, and he does, because that's how her magic works.
Yeah.
She can stop Amazo. That is a pretty OP moment.
What if it wasn't her magic that stopped Amazo? What if it was, damn girl, you're hot. Who are you?
That's how she just stops everybody. She flashes her tits. But then again,
I didn't say anything
wouldn't you
about
stop?
I didn't say anything about tits. I just said she's so remarkably stunning.
I'm real, man. Do you see that costume?
Oh, come on.
Do you see that costume? That costume can make
He's all
a blind man would walk by and go, damn.
A blind man. Well, it's the gravity. It's the shift in gravity.
Exactly. The shift in gravity.
I'm gonna Amazo all over you. So stupid. That's awful. That's a terrible joke. That'll be cut
That'll be good.
from the final edit. So overall, the comic was a fun read, and and to be honest, I felt like the Constantine stuff was pretty fantastic. We also had a bit of a political statement from Taylor on classism. I can get behind that. Obviously, this is something that he feels passionately about since Rise and Fall, his Hellblazer miniseries he's writing right now, also has to do with classism.
Yeah.
The 1%, the elite, the idea that the wealthy will always be okay, even at the end of days. And rather than helping the survivors, they are tucked away with some elaborate plan to start a new human race.
Yep.
So I enjoyed the series for what it is, or the issue, I should say, for what it is. There's a lot of moving parts.
There is.
And we have 4 more issues. I dig it so far, but if we don't want to see more narrative gaps or snafus, he's going to have to start bringing these things together pretty soon and quit introducing new elements and just work on closing out what has been set up.
Yes.
I will give this an RMD score of 81%. I'm a little bummed that Cyborg has a body.
I am too.
I feel like he should have been ahead for a little longer. I was dying to see someone wrap him in like a chain around his head, like through his head. Or put him in like a bird cage.
Awesome visual.
It would have fit into this world of debauchery and violence. Come on, Tom.
Go all the way.
Yeah, Tom and I are on first name basis. All right, so your final thoughts and score.
My final thoughts on my score. Okay, everyone's going to be surprised because this is going to be the lowest score
Really,
I've
Dave?
ever given DCeased. It's still kick-ass,
It's
and I'm still happy with it. No, but it is a 71.
Oh, okay, that's still fair.
Yeah, it's just right above kick-ass. And like as I said, the reason why is I'm like what you just mentioned just now. He's interesting these really cool concepts, but it takes away from the narrative right now if you're going to introduce elements like Trigon, the 1%, Superman siphoning off the sun. There's a cure.
Well, maybe this isn't the end, Dave. Maybe Deceased Dead Planet is just a setup for another story.
Yeah.
Which
And it might.
that's also kind of shitty. You need to bring closure to your story and then set up new things towards the end. But the things that are already introduced, you need to definitely have plans to close out.
Yeah. But overall in the issue, the strengths of it carry it big time. I mean, the narrative of John's is really cool. Bringing him forefront as the de facto leader. It's not the new Trinity. It's John Constantine that they're answering to. And the fact that basically, if you think about it, we're left at the end, normally in the DC universe, if it was told that the one thing that's going to help get the cure is on Apocalypse. And honestly, just from the final line, they're going after the
throne.
Not the throne.
The
It's
throne of a
basically
king?
Yeah, the throne of a king. But it's the chair of Mobius. It's the chair. It's the I completely zoned it out. I even had it written down. But it's the chair of the New Gods.
Yeah.
That's what they're after. You would expect them to say, okay, Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman, you guys are going to Apocalypse. No, we're sending freaking John Constantine.
Yeah, dude. The setup is really good, and the whole way we got there too, where the fact that he knew that Mr. Miracle wouldn't believe him, so he had to use the lasso
of truth
to prove that he's not lying to him.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good. There are a lot of good moments.
And I like that because you bring in a character that makes it plausible. And that's what Tom Taylor has been doing magically with the whole series of DCeased. He makes the scenario plausible to the DC fandom.
So you're giving this a 71%,
I'm
Dave?
giving it a 71.
Okay, quick question because we're running out of time here. Now, you remember the first round of DCeased much better than I do.
Yes.
Did he make these mistakes?
No, he didn't.
Huh.
He didn't make these mistakes. I mean, would he introduce elements that basically would be allusions to another series? Of course. He did that
But there were no blinding
But there was not a blinding
and
gap.
skipping things that maybe he decided he didn't want to cover and waste time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the whole cyborg thing is basically baffling to me because I'm like going,
Well, it was such a big element. It was a part of the setup.
yeah.
Yeah, I do agree. That's pretty
strange.
It is strange, yeah. Anything else you want to add? You got 30 seconds.
Pretty much I think that everyone should still be reading this title. I think it's going to end pretty well. I have faith in Tom Taylor still. I'm not a fanboy, but
Yeah.
I do have faith in his past work.
Yeah, we will continue to cover it as long as it doesn't completely fall apart.
Yeah.
But there is a Swamp Thing cover out there
Oh
circulating the
my God.
interwebs. I believe it's a variant.
We haven't talked about the covers.
Dude, you guys, we don't have time. We're running out of time. But
Yeah.
make sure you keep your eyes open for that. If you're a Swamp Thing fan like ourselves, keep your eyes open to pre-order that variant because it's pretty amazing. All right, that does bring us to the end of our discussion. I want to thank everyone for listening. Remember, find us on Stitcher and iTunes. Just search House of Mystery. Leave us reviews. Give us thumbs up. Share the show as well when you see us post on Twitter and Facebook. Most of our efforts go into Facebook, so if you want to find us over there, you can. Just type in House of Mystery. We should pop right up. Also, patreon.com/RainmanDigital pledge. Even if you don't really want the extra content, if you were to go and pledge simply $1 a month, that helps us out. If we were to get every single one of our listeners to pledge $1, we would be fine. We would be able to continue doing this with zero worries. So I want to thank everyone for listening. Thank you, David.
Thank you.